80s rock legend Roland Orzabal, who's a singer, songwriter and a guitarist for the group Tears for Fears, has done exactly that. Congratulations to him. He's just announced the arrival of a baby with his wife, who's 36 years old. Do you think it matters at what age you become a parent, as long as you're loving and decent and a good parent? I'm not going to start with Penny on this. That surprised you, didn't it? I'm going to start with Sam, and I've got method in my madness. Why have I chosen you to start with?
Well, because my dad was 50 when I was born, and my mum was significantly younger. She was 32, and I had a very present, loving, fantastic father who was lucky enough to be full of energy and lived until he was 89. And so, yes, absolutely, present, loving, incredible. But the one note of caution I would say is that as a child growing up, I was really aware of the difference in the age and likely the difference in how long my dad would be around.
Yeah. So you thought of it, you worried about it?
I did worry about it. And it wasn't ever present, but it certainly was something that I was really aware of growing up, of thinking, oh, how long is my dad going to be here? And I was very lucky. He was around until I was in my 30s. But I have many friends in their 50s and 60s who still have their dad around, and I don't have that, and I was aware of it. So thumbs up to loving, wonderful dads or mums who are older, but thumbs down to the burden it might put on the kid, unfortunately.
Very honest response. Now, Penny, in your book, Someone Like Me, and as I just want to repeat, there's no one like you, absolutely no one. Having read the book, no one. It's very interesting because when you get together with Rod, he says, it's quite clear he's fallen really deeply in love with you, but he says, I don't want to get married and I don't want any children. And you know that you do. You know you want children, but you're thinking, well, I really have fallen for you too. Let's see what happens. But we know what happened. You went on to have two fabulous, strapping sons. So what about, being an older dad? Did you worry?
Well, the thing is, when you say Rod Stewart, out on tour, currently in Vegas, going down to South America, running around like a teenager, yeah. He's not your average 80-year-old man. So it's very hard to put him in that bracket. We had our first son, McAlister, when Rod was about 64, I think. He was about that age.
Oh, beautiful picture. What
there
a
is
gorgeous
our
picture.
little baby, Alistair. And then I found it very, very tricky to fall pregnant the second time round. So it might be the case that a family are trying to have a child, and it took us 3 IVFs later to finally have our second child, a sibling for Aidan. Obviously there's the complications of whether people can afford to bring a child in.
Here you are with both boys. Look at that beautiful
both my boys.
picture. Wow.
But, financially we're in a stable position. And, of course, Rod is not like any older man that, you could put him on a match field with guys my age and he would still compete with them. So it's hard on that level. So I think you've just got to look at it like, you talked about being a child and wondering when you might lose your father, but there's sad stories about marriages breaking up and fathers or mothers running off and abandoning their children. Children don't ever wonder, I wonder if my dad will ever leave us. So the fact that Rod's such a family man, and like you said, if you're healthy and fit and loving, that's all the children ever need.
I wonder whether you think that there is a kind of age.
Well, I think it's quality, not quantity, because I think that there's a two-edged sword. Because people have kids young, they don't necessarily have the financial stability you have when you're older. You don't necessarily have the wisdom you have when you're older. And there's a lot of things you can teach your kids. Like for me, my first child was born when I was 46, so that's fairly old, I suppose. I don't know, but I'm grateful for that because I got everything out of my system, and I really enjoy being a dad. And you see, so it is kind of horses for courses. As Penny said, if you're fit, and they can keep you young. Yeah. And I certainly look after myself a lot more since having children, so I'll probably live longer as a result of having them later.
Like Forever Young, just like a song.
Yeah.
Let's go to Vida, who's on the line in Norfolk. Vida, you've experienced this. You're really talking from your own personal life story. So tell us what happened with you, my love.
Yes, hello, Vanessa and everyone. My father was born in August 1880. He was 2 years older than my grandfather. He was 65 when I was born. Wow. He's 31 years older than my mother. He was 65 when I was born, which was on VE. I was born on VE Day, by the way. Right. Hence my name, Vida.
Yes.
It's an aside. He was 68 when my brother was born. My mother was 31. I said that. He became ill with bone cancer when I was 8 years old. I helped nurse him, and I didn't know what was wrong at that age, but I prayed for him every night to get better. I was sent off to an awful convent boarding school when I was 11 years old, He died when I was in the first term. After being told by the Sister Superior, I went to the dining room for breakfast. I had no hugs or comfort from anyone. I told a friend why I was crying. The nun then punished me for speaking before saying grace. I was allowed home a month later, and it was as if he'd never been there. I had no counselling at all. It resulted in my having terrible nightmares for 30 years. It's just been, it was a bad experience for me, really.
Yes. I mean, sorry for asking a very personal question, but, what attracted your mother to your father? Did she explain kind of their love story and how she decided to marry a man so very many years older than she was?
She was friends with his first wife, apparently. I don't know much about it. And I think then she died. And I don't know. My father was a landowner. I don't know. Maybe it was to do with that.
Right.
I just don't know. But it was a huge mistake. It really was.
Massive legacy. On the other hand, Vida, without that, you wouldn't be here. You wouldn't be talking to me. And I'm kind of assuming that you're glad that you were born and you're glad that you were given life. Are you?
The only reason I'm glad is because I have a strong faith. I wouldn't want to be here otherwise because it's been too difficult in this life.
I'm
I
so
think.
sorry. That's such a sad story.
Terrible. The boarding school experience was dreadful.
Absolutely dreadful. Thank God they wouldn't do that to a child today. Wouldn't dream of it, would they? How harsh.
That's very sad. I'm sorry to hear that.
Yeah, so am I.
Sending you some love, Vida. Lots of love.
Yeah, we are. Vida, thank you so much for ringing. Let's go to Kath in Merseyside. Your dad was 64 when you were born, Kath.
Yes, and my mum was 43.
Right.
And my dad became ill when I was 8, and for 2 years lived in the front room. His bed was downstairs. And so really there was no dad taking me out anywhere or anything like that. As I say, I was 10 when he died. Born in 1887, he was very Victorian. And in a way, if he'd have lived, I did pass the 11 plus, but if he'd have lived, I would never have been allowed to go to high school because his opinion was girls didn't need educating. But I miss, my friends, I meet up with my school friends, they talk about their dads, their life with their dads and all that. And I got no life with my dad. But my mum lived till 103.
Wow.
Gosh, how wonderful.
I mean, these stories are absolutely extraordinary. Each one of them you could see would make a book or a play or a film or whatever it is. I suppose it really is a matter of luck. And just as you say, you don't know whether your parents will stay together. You don't know whether it will be, unfortunately, the much younger mother who gets ill. You just don't really know what's going to happen. Let's talk to Denise in London about this. Denise, you feel much more positive about the story.
Oh, yeah, certainly. Because I've had that sort of life with my parents. A great mum, terrible dad. But she gave us great life. You know what I mean? We had great life. So if you're 64, go for it, especially with Rod. You know what I mean?
Well, she did. That's exactly what she did do, isn't
But I
it?
suppose most 65-year-olds, they've retired.
Yeah.
So it is like the slipper gang, and life does slow down when you retire. And Rod doesn't believe in retirement, and he's still kind of, 20 years later is still working and thriving. So it just depends. It's a very individual decision.
It is an individual thing, really. But the whole blended family thing and this kind of very delicate, gentle sort of juggling act that you managed to somehow pull off. Do you have any advice to give people? Because it really is a difficult one. I know it is.
It is challenging, but I think that the best gift that Rod and I were able to give to our boys, Alistair and Aidan, was the gift of their siblings. Because, we've grown into one another, amalgamated into this beautiful mix of different ages. Liam, Rod's son with Rachel, he was 5 when I first met Rod. And to watch them grow up and have successful relationships and have children of their own, it's just such a pleasure to be amongst everybody.
Do you feel like a stepmum to them, or do you feel like a mum to them?
No. I would never think of myself taking the role of their mother, because they have their mums. And they're all wonderful, but I'm so proud to be stepmom and step grandma to their kiddies, and I really honour that role.
And the idea that stepmums get judge, because you've got a lovely one in for your son as well.
Amazing one. We were lucky enough to spend Christmas with my ex-husband, his ex-now partner, who was the stepmom I described, helped raise my son for 10 years with kindness, compassion, decency, when it works, with patience, kindness and biting your tongue sometimes. It's a beautiful, magical thing. So I'm full of gratitude for her and for the blended family.
And there's Jeremy in the middle, and his face is not the same happy ever after.
This is wonderful to hear, but it very rarely does work, I'm afraid to say. And most child abuse does come from a step parent. It's something like 90% of it, I'm afraid to say. I had terrible experience with both my step parents, so I'm afraid I can't share that view with you guys, because it's not the same. You guys are incredibly lucky.
Yes, it's
and your kids are very
amazing.
lucky, but it's not always the way. You know, it's not always the way. Sorry to bring it down
No, but
the show, but it's true.
I'm sorry that you
It's
had
true.
to go through that experience.
It's terrible to hear.
But I think that people who are kind of, fallen in love and they're so excited and all they want more than anything on earth is just to mush in the children. You just want to mesh them in and look, this is your new sister and this is your brother and we're going to have a marvellous time. Let's all go to Southend and go to the beach and go to Ross's and have ice cream. It's going to be great. And then you've got these kind of resentful, miserable children staring, looking daggers at each other, and you're thinking, oh God, and all you really want to do is desperately snog the person you've just fallen in love with, and then you've got these horrible children that you're meant to love. It's all just very, very difficult.
Families are complicated.
Aren't they, though?
They are.
Aren't they? But call yourself
the
a
spice of
Lancaster.
life.
But do you think call yourself a Lancaster has been the key?
There we go.
Yeah, call yourself a Lancaster,
I like
and
that.
also the strength of the Stewart clan.
The strength of the Stewart clan. I mean, that's how come, isn't it? That you had this extra thing in common. It wasn't just him fancying you and you loving him. It was that kind of family background and grit and backbone. That's what I think. That's what I'm taking away from this
Old-fashioned
book.
values.
Old-fashioned values.
Yeah.
And do you think that it's possible to communicate those to your kids in this day and age?
I can, because Rod is such a traditionalist, and I love the fact that he respects women, and he's a man's man also. But like the simple things like opening a door for women, and women's activism rights and all that, saying I can open my own door, fair enough. But you can open a door for a woman or a man. It's just politeness,
Yeah, I
showing
agree with
grace
that.
and passion and all that, and love. And always learning to apologise as well. Rod and I had this little tiff in the car on the school run, and he asked me to pull over. I thought, oh God, darling, not now. And in fact, he turned around to the boys in the back of the car and he said, lads, I shouldn't have spoke to your mother like that. You need to learn to know that, yes, there are arguments and we can't always be perfect, but you must learn to apologise. So he sort of passed on some really good lessons in life to my boys. And so I think it's wonderful.
Would your next book be on parenting? Because I know genuinely, this is absolutely wonderful stuff, isn't it? I
It's
think there's a lot
actually
of great
excellent
life
stuff.
lessons. No, thank you, seriously.